So looking around, we're pretty diverse group, you know, like ethnicity-wise. So I'm guessing, or I would assume one of the questions that we all get is, oh, what ethnicity are you? What race are you? And it's a pretty cool question, like, you know, you think people are interested in you, so like you're gonna answer. But like the person that asks you, they normally like to play the guessing game. So they'll be like, oh, are you this? Or are you this? So for me, what I normally get is, oh, are you Mexican? Or like more closer to home, they'd be like, oh, are you Tongan? And I'd be like, no. So the reason I bring this up is because I want you guys to know that if you guys see someone that looks like me, don't ask them if they're Samoan or Tongan. Just be like, wow, you look good today. Okay, don't guess. And I'll tell you why in a second. But what I wanted to share with you guys today, I wanted to contrast, tell you the differences between the Samoan and Tongan culture, because it's very important that you guys don't walk up to someone that looks like me and just assume you know what their race is, okay? It might get you in trouble sometimes. Okay. Well, look at that, it just worked. You just clicked it, it came on. All right. So, first of all, I gave you guys some background information because not everyone knows what Samoa and Tonga are, or Tonga. So these are part of the Polynesian Islands. They're a chain of islands in the South Pacific. This is Tonga, this is Samoa. It's not really a big, it's not a need to know, but I just wanted you guys to have some, like a picture. So they're separate, okay? They're not the same thing, I promise. Okay, so the reason why you don't go up to someone and ask them is because Tongans and Samoans have a little bit of bad blood, and I'm explaining it to you guys right now. So thanks to this book by William Flood, which is weird, he's not like Polynesian, he's white. But anyway, he wrote a book. You can trust the white man, I promise. It's called The Pacific Legend. So he took all of our history is basically passed down by, it's oral history, because we didn't write anything down, or anything that we did write down, what we were made like, we were told to like trash it or whatever, to like, okay, yeah, because people came and like took over, so anyway, back to the topic. He took all our oral history and he like wrote it down in a book for us so that we learned. So he was talking about how there's two Tongan kings and they came to Samoa because one of them was with the other one because he did something with his wife. Anyway, he came across the islands of Samoa and really liked it. So basically what he did is he took over. He enslaved our people. We were slaves for Tonga, under Tonga for a good 400 years. And finally we had a rebel, like alliance or whatever you call it, and then we broke out. So even now, like a million years later, like there's still a lot of tension and bad blood between the two racial groups. So we don't really like to identify with each other, although there are a lot of similarities. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys the cultural differences between us two by identifying elements of art, language, and the rules of our societies. Okay, so the first one is art. Oh, I'm at the clicker. Thank you. So the two main forms of art that us Polynesian Islands have is the art of dance and our clothing. So I don't want to ask you guys if you guys want to, well, do you guys want to guess which one's which? Yeah, don't guess. Okay, anyway. So this is the Tongan, this is their attire, and they're in the middle of dancing. So the main differences that we have is the headpiece. So the headpiece for the Tongans, it's normally smaller, normally has a little bit like, the things that stick up at the top, kind of like antenna looking things. I'm not bagging on them, but it looks like antennas. Anyway, there's normally like one or two, very few, and that's called a teki. So it's smaller, one or two, so if you ever see anyone dancing, that's how you can identify. Also the things that they wear, it's a really pretty cool, like they wear a dress sort of thing, and then they wear an ia over it. Thank you. So they have the dress and then the ia over it. But what we wear is we wear this humongous head thing. Don't ask me why, I don't know. But we wear this humongous headpiece called the luenga, I think? Yes. And our attire is strictly just the dress. So they have the dress plus the, I'm getting it this plus the wrap, and then we just have the dress, so that's how you know. Also, when we dance, Samoans, we use more of like a fluid motion with our hands, you know. And Tongans, they do more stiff movements like this and a lot of head tilting. That's very important because Tongans tilt their head to show like respect, like they're dancing, like bowing for their audience. That's very important. Okay, and then yes, so it's the dance moves, and then the attire. So next we're going to talk about the language. So Tongan language and Samoan language are very similar, but the main difference is in certain letters. So for instance, for Tonga, they use the NG as we use in America, like nga, like song, you know, Tonga, they use that. But in Samoan, it's just, you use a G for both of them. So in words like Tonga, we don't have the N, it's just G, but it makes the nga sound. So it's just letters differences. And also their language is more masculine. So in words like pa'apetai in Samoan, that means thank you. In Tongan, it's pa'apekai. So like the difference in the T and the K comes across a little more masculine. Okay, and lastly we have the rules of society. So in this includes the government. So like the government structure, Tongans are under a monarchy, and Samoans are under like a democracy type of thing, like we are kind of. But Tongans are the last monarchy left in Polynesia. They still have their king. They tried to overthrow him, but they couldn't. Thank you. But we still use both still use a chief system within their political areas. Yes. One of the next things is tattoos. Tattoos, as you guys know, in Polynesian culture, are very important. But the Tongans, they don't use tattoos or tattoos anymore. They got rid of it when they were taken over by the British. When the British came, they took it out. So one major difference is that the Tongans, they don't use these tribals that the Samoans use. These are helpful in identifying like where you're from, your status in society, and your commitment to your family. And then lastly, the last thing, like the last rule is the gender roles. So in Samoa, it's kind of like America, where males rule. It's a patriarchy. But in Tonga, the women, they're very highly regarded. So the men do everything for the women. So if the women, yeah, right, go Tonga. So if the women need something, the men have to be sure to get it done, you know. So yeah, so that's very important. So that's a major difference. Tonga is one of the, I guess, few countries that still do that because I guess the world is ruled by guys. But anyway, so with all this knowledge, I just want you guys to know, if you guys walk down the street, you know, you see someone looking like me, you can go up to them and be like, hey, do you guys like women? Or do you guys think women are highly regarded or lowly regarded? And if they say yes, then be like, oh, you're Tongan or you're Samoan. Then, you know, don't just walk up to someone and be like, hey, Samoan, Tongan, what's up? Because you'll probably get beat up, so. But yeah, that's how you know. So keep that in mind. Thank you. Just wait for him to do this. Because I never know what you said, or remember you said you don't do it. No. Come on, guys. Yeah. I'll just go back to Jasmine. I'm just kidding. Do you want something? This one. I know you don't want it. I'll try it. Oh, was it that quick? The white cheddar. There's not like the white cheddar one? Can you try the white cheddar one? I'll eat that, but then I'm not seeing it. I'm just kidding. She said, no, I'm good.
All right, James, what did you think?
I like how she started the speech. It was really fluid. You could tell that she knew what she was talking about. I really liked the beginning, how she did the background on the cultures, because for a lot of people, they don't know the total culture. I like the way she used visual aids. She kept good eye contact with the audience. You could tell she really knew what she was talking about. And yeah, I just think the conclusion could be like a little better, but other than that, it was a really good speech.
Okay. I thought there were a lot of things that were really fine about the speech. I appreciated the topics clearly identified. You've got a pretty solid thesis statement. The preview, though, when you were going to tell us what the structure of the speech is going to be, that comes 3.5 minutes into the speech, so it's a little bit late in the process. I think you need to move that up a bit. I appreciated your attempt to engage the audience and speak to us instead of just reading your notes. I do think that you do sometimes get sidetracked by doing that. You kind of go off on a tangent here or there, and you're thinking out loud and kind of just going with the flow of things. And I think it needs to be a little bit more controlled so that you are more in charge of the subject instead of letting the subject drag you around occasionally. The source that you cited on the first point, I'm not sure if that's the source for information that comes in the rest of the speech or not. That was the only source that I really heard being presented. I thought that you seemed a little bit dismissive of your first visual showing us the locations of these islands, and I think that that probably helped people to know that they are in proximity to one another, but that they are in fact different and separate entities, and to have some sense of space, I think probably helps people get an impression about why things might be different between the two cultures. The comparisons that you had, you don't talk too much about some of the things that are similarities except the language issue. I thought you did an okay job with that. I'm not sure that those are the most important differences, but they are differences. The N and the K sounds that you're talking about, they're kind of interesting the way you phrased it. If that's based on research or your own observation, it's not quite clear, and that's another reason why I think that you need to be citing information more consistently in the speech. I think the audience is interested in the subject. I was interested in the subject. I don't know about the rest of the audience. Forget them. Pay attention to what I thought. I was interested in it. I was enjoying it. I thought it was... there's a lot of stuff in it that goes well. The visual comparisons that you have, for example, on the dancing and the costumes that people would wear to kind of celebrate their culture, I thought you did a very good job of picking images that made clear what those differences are. You described them to some degree. Like you said, you aren't quite sure why the reasons are that they are different in the way they come about. And it's a little dismissive to say, I don't know why the Samoans are wearing this huge, gigantic headpiece and so on and so forth. I'm kind of wondering, well, I'll bet there's a reason. And it made me curious about those kinds of things. And so sometimes maybe a little bit deeper research would be called for here and there. Like I said, I think that you do a nice job trying to speak to the audience, but you do get sidetracked sometimes. Your visual contact is a little inconsistent, but vocally I think you're doing a good job, although sometimes you drop out. Speaking of the vocal delivery, I think that's one of the things that undermines the exit, because you do have a reasonable exit line that you're talking about, but you need to practice the delivery of it so that people know that it is in fact the exit line. I think you could tell that you were kind of waiting for people to recognize that you were done, and that's one of those things that your tone and your inflection will communicate to people more when you practice it. I think that will help you in the long run. All right, thank you.